Las Vegas Federal Courthouse. It's my first day back. I'm down here to support Eric Parker, Stephen Stewart, Scott Drexler, Ricky Loveland, them 4 defendants, and of course Andrea Parker's been covering this since the trial began, and I'm glad to be back down here to help support her. I know she's been going through a lot. Today I could see that there's a lot going on. One of the things that happened today, right as court ended here at lunch, was just horrible. The judge reprimanded Eric Parker, and she's going to keep him locked up in the holding cell after lunch, and said that he was disobeying and her orders there. So we'll get into that a little bit more too, but we want to get into what happened today in court with one witness we had. He's a BLM special agent, and he testified all morning, and now he's off his stand. We'll get another testimony of another FBI agent afterwards here. But we spent all morning with this one BLM agent named Robert, and I can't pronounce his name. Shalakis. So go ahead, Andrea.
Okay, so first I wanted to thank John for coming back down. We've missed you immensely. I want to touch on Parker being thrown out of the courtroom before we go into all of this. During the sidebars, it's really, the defendants are asked to do absolutely nothing. They are not to look at the jury. They're not to mouth anything to the jury. They can't speak to themselves. Now, mind you, these sidebars, they take a lot of time. The jury gets passed around candy. They get to converse. The courtroom observers, we get to converse. But the defendants are made to sit there looking solemn-like to almost increase this idea that they are terrorists, that they're these mean individuals. It is a way to make them look a certain way to the jury. So today, apparently Eric Parker at one point faced Scott Drexler, and for that, the judge is going to keep him locked in a room. She said she's going to keep him locked in that room for the next duration of the trial until the next break, and that is because she is worried that this time it wasn't so serious, but next time it could get more serious. She's really worried about these guys and what they're going to do. So she's going to make a point of punishing Mr. Parker for turning to Mr. Drexler.
She even admitted that she couldn't see if Mr. Parker said anything, that he might have been looking at a book on his lap, but she thought that he was looking at Mr. Drexler, and Drexler didn't say nothing back. But still, just on what she had possibly observed, she's going to go ahead and punish him.
At the end of that, he says, "Excuse me, Your Honor." And she stops and says, "You have an attorney to speak through, and I would suggest you use that." And then she goes off the record and leaves so that he does not get his point brought across. This is because in a previous hearing, he was able to raise his hand and ask a question himself. The judge didn't like that. She doesn't like Eric. Once again, when he testified in the last trial, she would not even look at him. So this goes to show her bias, goes to show how much hatred she has for these guys. Another thing I do want to mention, Eric Parker has his Bible in the courtroom every single day. His birthday is actually coming up on August 5th. He asked that if you write him, like he would love to have letters of encouragement for his birthday, and he really needs these right now, especially because of the way that they're picking on him in the courtroom. If you are to write to him, please include your favorite Bible verse or your favorite quote, so that he can go into his Bible and highlight the Bible verses, or take your quote from the Constitution and highlight it as the Constitution, and that he turn to these items during the bar, during these times when they're supposed to look inhuman to the jury, and be able to give him some solace to get through that. Okay, now we go into Special Agent Robert Shalakis. He is a gentleman that does some video recordings. In the beginning, he plays his recordings and talks about circling individuals and bringing them up based on what they are wearing. Here again, we have the Minority Report. They're coming in and they are going to label you as a criminal based on what you're wearing. Well, we all know people in the city, like, you know, I'm an Idaho girl. You bring me from Idaho and you bring me into the city and I go around wearing my camo. Does that mean I'm a militia member? Just because we're in a different area, you cannot profile people. This has always been an issue. This is always something that they've done. You cannot profile us. I think it was a great thing brought up in cross-examination by Leventhal when he said, well, can you pick out people in this courtroom and tell me who's a Democrat and who's a Republican? Because that's what you're saying here in this courtroom. So he goes through a lot of that. He circles a person. He appears to put up with his long arm here when he stood up. He appears to bring the weapon up. Once again, we've gone through this in this trial and the previous trial. This is his video that they take the screenshots from, where it's maybe seconds. He's adjusting his strap around his neck. This is a quote from Shalakis. They did not seem to me to be part of the protest. They were in the back, walking around, using concealment. I did not know what their intentions were. Here we go. We are arresting people based on thought crimes, based on their intentions, based on what you think that they're going to do.
Someone else's opinion of their intentions, too.
Exactly. Or the lack of knowing what their intentions were makes you a criminal, gets a gun pointed at you as an American citizen. He said he thought they were coming to start a firefight with the federal government. They brought guns and tactical equipment. The ICP was designed to gather the cattle, and no one anticipated what happened on the 12th. They say no one anticipated, but they're going on bad intel, and that's what's escalated this situation before the protesters even arrived. These militia groups, somebody was just going to start shooting around. This is just some of his commentary during his direct examination. He was so concerned for the people who stuck on the interstate. They did not know what was going on, and if there was gunfire, or it sure be innocent bystanders getting hurt. He's testifying that he's so worried about these people, but all of the just pointing weapons at them, and he keeps continually stating that the militia were the ones going to fire, but from the testimony in the courtroom, we know that the BLM agents were the ones that were going to fire. Once again, they go into pointing out what they're wearing. They go into cross-examination. Tanasi hammered this hard. He pointed out one gentleman said he was wearing camo when he wasn't, so they brought that up. He asked if he knew the Nevada Highway Patrol truck, and he said he didn't know what truck that was. So once again, they're only answering questions. They're not answering truthfully. They are given an oath as soon as they get on the stand to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But if the truth doesn't fit their narrative, they say, I don't know or I don't recall. Once again, one of my favorite lines of questioning Tanasi does is asked about how many times he met with the U.S. Attorney's Office. What I have seen come out of this trial is every single time they're asked that, the people immediately say, well, besides yesterday, which was said today in the courtroom. Well, he said, well, besides yesterday, about 4 times. Drexler, Leventhal comes back in, and he hammers this again. So you testified this guy was with the militia. He has testified that all of these guys, he's pointing them out. This guy here, he's wearing tax gear, he's with the militia. This guy here, he's wearing camo, he's with the militia. And he's saying, what you're doing is you're stating that you know the totalitarity and circumstances of these people based on what they're dressed in. Then he brings up the Park Service people. There's a picture, and he's like, well, what do these people wear? Immediately, there's an objection for pointing out the Park Service and what kind of stuff that they have, what they are wearing. He says, excuse me, your judge, I'm doing a contrast. If it's spotting someone who is a Democrat or Republican based on what they're wearing, he's trying to bring this up with the jury. There's an objection, a sidebar, it was sustained, and he had to move on. Then he brings up a picture of Dan Love with the hat on backwards, a black hat with the white thing, the hat on backwards. And that's immediately objected and sustained. So here what we're seeing is anything the prosecution wants to bring in, they can do. They can put all this conjecture into the testimony, but the second we try to even bring up a contrast situation, it's overruled. Because, you can't point out anything that the Park Service is wearing. You can't point in anything that Dan Love has his hat on backwards. In fact, pointing out a picture of Dan Love is even amazing that it got into the courtroom today. Then he says, well, he said, it appears that they are with the militia. I don't actually know. that was a good thing that Leventhal was able to get out of Shulakis.
Can I add to that?
Absolutely.
In regards to the people dressing and what their appearance was and everything, in these videos, I don't know if you two agree, I looked at multiple screens in the courtroom and I could not actually make out anything. An appearance of the long gun? No, I could not make that out. An appearance of clothing? No, I could not make that out. An appearance of any recognition, I could not make that out of the individual or anything. It was so far away.
You needed a high-powered scope or camera to even pick up these people from that distance away. It's obvious here to me, just by sitting in here and observing, it's a total biased witness that's only going towards what the government says. It's their opinion of what happened. It's not a factual.
And I noticed during the cross-examination that suddenly the witness, Special Agent Robert, whatever the last name is, Slakis, he suddenly couldn't recognize certain things. It's too blurry, he would say.
Well,
and then all of a sudden he was truthful about the fact that he couldn't identify these individuals any longer.
There's 2 different times in there where he was in the cross-examination where he admitted he was wrong. Well, I guess I was wrong. That man did not have camouflage on. And he was wrong in 2 different incidents, and he backed off. And he told he had to admit that he was wrong, and he testified with the government a wrong testimony. And he backed off and he retracted his testimony twice.
He certainly did.
Yeah, he also, Tanasi got him to point out that he never put any of that into his reports. That he was worried about the militia was going to start a gunfight with federal agents. And Shulakis says, well, of course that's his own opinion, and he doesn't put opinions in reports. So here Shulakis is saying none of the stuff that he testified in the courtroom today was worth putting in his report because it is his own opinion and not the facts. So Shulakis is the type of man that will go and do a report based on fact alone, but when he comes into the courtroom, he's going to give solely on his opinions and not on those facts. And I thought that was a huge part to bring out as well. Tanasi also brought out, in Shulakis' video, in a lot of these videos, you're seeing a zoomed up version. So Tanasi points out all of those out-zoomed versions and says, now this is what you can see with your naked eye. I think that brought a lot up for the jury.
One thing that's
just
interesting, this special agent, he didn't even know who Eric Parker was during that standoff time out there, the protest. He didn't know who he was. And he was never asked one time to identify one of these defendants. But he kept bringing it up. Why do you keep bringing up the black hat? You mean Mr. Parker? He said that twice during this time, trying to make sure the jurors knew that it was Mr. Parker in this black hat, not Dan Love or someone else. Dan Love had a black hat with a white insignia on it too. His was backwards. But the prosecutors refused to let us bring that up. They did not want that talked about at all, or any of these agents of how they had their guns. One big important thing is what I had never seen in the first trial. An order came over the radio. On this video, it said, sling your arms. Sling your arms twice.
Swing your long guns.
Swing your long guns. Sling them. Put them up. And that order was refused and disobeyed by these BLM agents. And this officer said, well, that was a suggestion. An order is a suggestion when it's given by your commander over the radio, and they refused to obey that order.
He said that it was up to the discretion of those officers whether they felt like slinging their long guns or not, based on what they perceived. Here we go with another. What they perceive as the intentions of the people over there, what they perceive as their threats. So, and that came out in a jury question. And I mean, I gotta say, we've had 88 jury questions in 2 weeks of trial. That is so that's 8 days, because it's 2 4-day weeks. 88 jury questions. So now we go into the jury questions in this. 89. Did anyone point a weapon at you? The answer was no. 90. When you heard the comment to sling arms, did that go for BLM only or every law enforcement officer there? This is where he gives his long-winded answer. Well, each law enforcement officer can make the discretion of pointing or putting down their weapon at any time based on what they perceive as their threat. If they are in the crosshairs of someone else and they hear put your long gun away, they can make the decision to follow the order or not. I'm not sure. I've never been in the military. I've never been in the police force, but this is the first time I have ever heard somebody give you a command and you have the choice to follow it or not. We all know that that's not true. Look at what just happened to Eric Parker in the courtroom for turning. How many times have we heard some person in the military get in trouble for not following a command, even if he was in harm's way? So for them to testify on the stand that they could choose to agree or disagree. Then he says that Kelly Cole answered that question, and he doesn't know who told Kelly Cole to say that. So here we go, once again, the operation, nobody knows what the right hand and the left hand are doing. They do not have good communication, and they're all just a whole bunch of chiefs and no Indians. Another one.
I can confirm that with military experience, though. I heard the recording in the courtroom played twice, and they did order to sling your guns, your long guns. If you have a long gun, sling your long gun. And it was repeated twice. So 2 times it was played in court, and that order was said twice on the radio, and I heard that, and that is an order. That is an order. My friend Jenny Caldwell is on here right now. She served with me overseas, and she also is confirming, as a soldier with combat experience, an order is an order. We had certain areas where we can escalate or de-escalate. When we received those orders, we had to hold that directive as a unit completely. An order is an order, and yes, we would have gotten in trouble. The only threat that can change that order is imminent threat, meaning they are firing on us. Then we bring back the weapons to an escalation point.
And this agent said no weapons were pointed at him.
No, and he did testify. No weapons were pointing at him.
The last jury question was 91. Were you still concerned for your life when you saw law enforcement next to the guys with long guns? And he goes into another long-winded, this is the problem, is that we have FBI agents upstairs testifying, BLM agents upstairs testifying. They have taken classes and courses to know how to answer things without incriminating themselves. They know how to get answers from people by trying to get people to incriminate themselves, and they know how to avoid it. So what we have here is you don't have regular citizens answering these questions. He says that he was worried about any loss of life, and goes back to those innocent people on the bridge who were stopped. Now, this is another thing, is I don't recall anyone being stopped. There was traffic, and it was moving slowly, but no one was forcibly being stopped. Now, if these guys were so concerned about that, why didn't they stop the traffic? They could have easily stopped the traffic on the whole bridge scenario, and this wouldn't be an issue. But what they're trying to do here is they're trying to make these law enforcement officers seem like they cared about the protesters or the innocent people on the bridge, which they did not.
And the law enforcement, BLM agents, and FBI agents were on the bridge mixed in with the people, to include protesters and so-called appearance of militia.
So the last thing that came out of it, Leventhal got up for a recross after the questions and said, now, did you have a long gun? And he said yes, and it was slung the entire time. So this gentleman, he's going to testify that there was such a danger and that these guys had the discretion to raise their long guns or sling their long guns, but his long gun never left his sling. Once again, I'm going to add that, like I said earlier, Eric Parker's birthday is on the 5th. It's going to be a really hard birthday. Last year, he spent his birthday in jail, but this year it's going to be even harder because we're up in that courtroom. He really needs those letters of encouragement. If you could include your favorite line from the Constitution, your favorite quote from American history, or your favorite Bible verse, so that he may take those things and copy them down to bring them in the courtroom with him, to keep him busy, his mind busy. I know that he turns to these things when he is having a hard time in the courtroom, maybe having a hard time keeping his mouth shut. I don't have the address.
Well, somebody,
right
if they
now.
could, post the address for Eric Parker and these other 3 defendants. They're out there at Henderson here, just the outskirts of Nevada. So they're at the Henderson Detention Center while they're in trial here. So I know somebody out there can post that address publicly for Eric Parker, because his birthday is again on the 5th, and that's very important to him. We know that right now Eric Parker will not be back in the courtroom after lunch. He's being punished by Judge Gloria Navarro for just turning around in his seat during court and possibly looking at one of the other defendants. No proof that he even spoke to any of the defendants. He didn't even the jurors didn't even notice it. Nobody noticed it. I was sitting there the entire time. There was no disruption, absolutely
None.
at all.
None.
And he's being punished because this could turn into something bigger, supposedly, if she doesn't, because he disobeys. And this has continued through the whole trial. It has never continued through the whole trial. Everybody's been peaceful in this courtroom. All the observers have been peaceful. Nobody's causing trouble here. And for this is just another blunt bias towards these defendants, and this judge is just, again, treated them wrong.
Andrea or John,
Yep.
the attorney for Eric Parker, Marchese, what was his statement to the judge in regards to the admonishment? Prior to the admonishment was issued, he made a statement in Eric's defense.
He said that he was looking at the screen and she shut him down there. And he said, well, whether he was looking at the screen or not, I have told him he is to face forward only and to look down so that something like this doesn't happen again. Because what we've got here is they're just, she claimed that we're the ones using childish schoolhouse bullying tactics in Greg Burleson's sentences hearing. What we're seeing upstairs today, that is the childish schoolhouse bullying tactics that are coming down from the federal government, from the Bureau of Land Management. Everything that they're doing up there is childish schoolhouse bullying tactics. The fact that this agent is going to say, Marchese says black hat, and the agent says, so you mean Eric Parker? And he does that twice, once with the prosecution and once with the defense. That is exactly childish schoolhouse bullying tactics. Just like the bullying tactics they used out at the BLM, out at Gold Butte, when they arrested Dave Bundy, 12 or 10 to 1 man taking pictures on the side of the road, arrest him, drop him off in Las Vegas with no ride, and not charged with anything. So here, once again, it seems like we are back in school, and everyone's pointing the finger. Well, you're the one doing this. Well, the administration, the government, the federal bureaucracies are saying, you people are the ones that did the wrong. When we know, for a fact, they pointed the weapons first. They did all of these things. There was no violence on the 12th. But I can guarantee you on the 6th there was violence. And on the 9th there was violence. There was no violence on the 12th because the protesters brought their arms with them so that the BLM had to behave themselves. And that is what happened. No shots were fired, even though they keep saying, oh, people could have been shooting.
Nobody was tased.
Yeah, nobody was tased
that day.
No attack dogs were sicked on people. There was no one thrown to the ground and refused an ambulance when they called for their police to come. I don't know what to say. This is what's going to happen in America if we don't stand up for each other. And we have to stand up for everyone. Not just the people upstairs, not just the Bundys. We have to make sure that this isn't happening in every courtroom around the United States of America. And even if you can't get here to Las Vegas, there is something that you can do at home.
Exactly. There's a courtroom somewhere in this nation, whether it's in Alabama with the baby home case, whether it's in New York City or wherever it's at. Go to your local courtrooms, go to your local courthouses, find out what's happening in those courtrooms, find out who's being charged and who needs support. Andrea Parker needs support. We had 12 people in court today, some awesome people here, but only 12 people here today. We should have 100 people in that courtroom. I know there's 2 or 3 people standing down here with the signs today. 2 or 3 people, and I know everybody can't be out here, but if you can, you should be out here. We should have 100 people out here, not just 2 or 3 standing every single day. And these 2 or 3 are faithful people. This dozen that's in court are faithful people, but we need more. We need
you don't have to be here all the time. We can all be rotating. If we had a lot more people committed
Come down
to
here
this.
for one day.
Yeah, one day, a few hours of your time, and go back to work, whatever you can do. Just coming in and out, having multiple people come in and out doesn't have to be orchestrated at your whim, your private time, as you wish, as you're able. It would be really great, and it will interest you.
Definitely will.
It will interest you to see the tyranny is actually true. But I have to say, to see it for yourself is way different than every time you see it on these videos. It is increased tenfold the reality of what's happening across this nation.
There's no way to explain. We can't really give justice of what's happening in this courtroom without you witnessing it yourself.
Yeah, we miss details, I'm sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I did want to mention, we have seen support from all over the nation. We have had people coming to Vegas on their vacation stopping for a day. We've had people who weren't even coming to Vegas, but they were on vacation and they stopped for a day going through. We have had many people bring their young children up into the courtroom. I have been amazed at these children who have come and been so great inside the courtroom. It has been so nice for the jury to see these well-behaved children as we're sitting there, a loving family union in our pews, watching what the injustice that's going on, being supported by so many. So that, you know, even if you're somewhere nearby and you can stop by for a few hours, it makes a difference. I want to thank everyone who comes down here every day, all of our regulars. And I also want to thank anyone who's made it a point to come out of their way to come here and sit here for a few days. I know we had a gentleman from South Dakota that just went back this weekend, and he will be missed, and I know that, you know, we can't tell you, like they're saying, we can't tell you what's going on in that courtroom. Well, I mean, we can express it as much as we can, but until you see it for yourself inside that courtroom, you're not going to see the true injustice of it.
John and Andrea, thank you guys so much.
Thanks everyone for joining us down here. We've got just a short time to get some lunch, get a bite to eat, and get back in the courtroom. But we appreciate everybody joining us here and hearing us out and hearing what's going on in this courtroom. Thanks again, everybody. I don't know if we'll have another update afterwards or not. We might. But we'll be back here every day this week, Monday through Thursday. Tomorrow morning, anybody who's here for a 9 o'clock, we've got Dr. Henry, the 93-year-old man that's out in front right now. His sentencing is tomorrow. And he's facing 20-plus years in prison in this same courtroom. And we encourage anybody who's close by to be there. Court does not start tomorrow until 10 o'clock in the morning is what I'm understanding for Eric Parker and these 4 defendants. But this doctor, this 93-year-old doctor, his family is coming in from California tomorrow and asking for our support, and it's at 9 o'clock. But we're running short on time here, I'm being told, so we got to shut it down, and we'll be back as quick as we can with more updates. Thank you, everybody. God bless, and keep praying for us.
Good to see you two together.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're back down here at the federal courthouse. It's after court. We just got out. It was a long day. It was my first day back down here, but the day makes 12 days from jury selection, opening arguments and everything. That Andrea Parker's been down here the whole time, and but this is my first day back in court, and I tell you what, it's things that happened today have been just jaw-dropping. It's hard to comprehend all this stuff. Being here is the only way that you can actually get all this in and just understand this tyranny and this corruption that's going on in this court. First thing we want to bring up is the doctor again. Dr. Henry Wissler, and I'm probably not pronouncing his last name right, but he's 93 years old. He has a sentencing hearing here tomorrow at 9 a.m. His family would love all the support. He would love it. He's 93 years old. He's about to be sentenced tomorrow, looking at 20 years or longer in a federal prison somewhere here in the United States. His daughter told me yesterday that he is most likely going to be shipped off all the way to either New York City or North Carolina, or maybe even Florida, to serve out his sentence. He will not make it 20 years in prison being at 93 years old. So this is going to be a death sentence to him. It's horrible. He's not going to be back near his family. They live in California and here in Las Vegas, and he's going to be shipped off plumb across the country to the East Coast somewhere. I'll have his name better tomorrow at the update, how to pronounce his last name, but it's Dr. Henry Wissler is how I'm understanding how it's pronounced. But we need his support here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Court for Eric Parker and the other 3 defendants don't start till 10 o'clock, so it gives us a little bit of time to show him support and be at his hearing. First off, we want to bring up some kind of breaking news here, what happened today with one of the jurors. And one of the jurors brought it to the judge's attention in a note that she had received a text message today from a friend. And this text message that she had received came on her cell phone that she had with her here today, and it says, you have 2 hours more to pass death sentence on these defendants. I'm going to repeat this again. This is juror number 1. She received a text message from a male friend, some other friend of hers, on her cell phone, telling her she had just 2 hours to pass a death sentence on these prisoners. We brought that juror in. The judge questioned her and asked her relationship with this guy and how long she's known the guy, and if she could still continue not being biased. There's still a lot of decisions to be made here. The defense team was shocked at it. The prosecution just fumbled around. Nobody has made a decision whether to get rid of this juror or to keep her. One other thing that got brought up about this juror, the judge brought up again, as this juror's ex-husband was actually a U.S. Park Service personnel, like a park ranger, park service guy. He was not an officer, I understand, but he was he worked for the Park Service, the BLM. That's her ex-husband. She was at least honest enough to tell about this text message, so I don't really have informed an opinion yet. She seems like a juror that's trying to be honest about it, but someone did send her a message telling her she had just 2 hours to pass death sentence on these prisoners. I'm going to turn it over now to Andrea Parker. We've got lots of news here to tell what went on with this last witness. He's an FBI agent. He sits in the courtroom. He was in the last trial. He testified in the last trial. He's always in there. But anyway, Andrea, go ahead.
Okay, so he is the case agent for this actual trial. So he's been in the courtroom the entire time, both this trial and the previous trial. He actually sits in the courtroom behind the prosecution on that little bench. I've talked about this little bench before. I've said, here we have 3 prosecuting attorneys, and then we have 5 people sitting behind them on that bench. So 5, 6, 7, 8. If you count the judge, we've got 9 on 4 with the lawyers. So he's part of this giant team. Today he gets up from that area, goes to the witness stand to testify. Now I want to bring something up here. What he is testifying to, he is bringing in footage from Dennis Michael Lynch. He is bringing in footage from Hugh Gorgon. He is bringing in pictures from Hugh Gorgon. He is bringing in pictures from Shannon Bushman. We all know from last trial, all of those people were called by the prosecution to testify in the courtroom. What we have here is the government went through the first trial, and they found that any civilian that they brought in to testify for the prosecution, even if it was to just authenticate their pictures, they could not keep them from telling their story and supporting more of the defendants than they support the prosecution's narrative. So what they have done here is, because they got a mistrial last time, they have recalculated, and instead of going by things the correct way, the accurate way, by bringing the people who took the photo in to authenticate it, they instead are making sure that those people don't even enter the courtroom, and this FBI agent will testify to it. So, like I said, they had a mistrial the last time. They have doubled down, they have tripled down, they have thrown everything they've got at this. They have stacked the jury against us. They have prevented us from talking about the BLM's heavy-handedness, state of mind. They have taken any form of defense away from us, and now they are even taking any civilian that testified in the last trial from testifying in this trial. I doubt they'll even call a civilian to testify. Now, of course, they do call the Park Service employee that stopped and took pictures. They called him a civilian, and they also called another person that was contracted by the government to work with the cattle impound, a civilian. But those are not true civilians. If the government is paying your paycheck and you're testifying upstairs, don't you think that that goes to your bias? Absolutely.
There are some good questions up here and statements in regards to this witness, Special Agent Willis, today being in the courtroom and also being a witness and being in the courtroom prior. A lot of people are under the belief that all witnesses are strictly to be not in the courtroom up until testimony, and then maybe after that they can view.
So the way that they got around this in both trials is they say the case agent can be in the courtroom the entire time and still testify. They also say that the defendants get the same ability to sit through the entire trial and then have the option to testify. So this case agent is the only one that supposedly has that same ability to sit in the courtroom and testify. So that's where that's going. But I agree that this is practically the prosecution going up and giving testimony against the defense. So what's different from Nadia Ahmed giving her own narrative at the stand versus this agent getting onto the witness stand and actually testifying? So where is the line that they're crossing? Well, I believe they've blurred all of those lines. They're allowed to do whatever they want in there, and that's because the rules change daily. There is no rules written in stone, and if they don't win here, what are they going to do next? What other possibility? They have gone from somewhat trying to give us a fair trial to trying to completely railroad us. If this doesn't work, what are they going to do next? If we can't get 12 people to agree on something, we all know with the PATRIOT community, with politics, can you ever find 12 people that are going to agree on everything? It's impossible. I doubt that that's going to happen upstairs. So what are they going to do next? Are they going to pull a Hillary Clinton and then all of a sudden everyone dies of a heart attack in jail?
Jurors dead by suicide?
Yeah.
Or witnesses dead by suicide?
Well, exactly. Or even just the guys. All of a sudden, the guys are being held and they all have a heart attack, or there's a mass fight in the jail. Where is their next plan of attack? Because it has gone too far already. We are not getting a fair trial inside. There is no way that this is going to come out fair no matter what happens. I also believed I saw somebody commenting on a mistrial with this juror. 2 cases during this trial already, they have brought up the mistrial word. I believe if the prosecution and the judge feel like this is going south, they will just call a mistrial. They've already set themselves up on the inside. I just want everyone to know that the prosecution actually filed a motion about racial and gender bias before they claimed it upstairs in the courtroom. They have been preparing for every turn of events coming up, and I don't put anything past them. When there is no checks and balances, the government will run off and do whatever they want. The bad guys will win when there are no checks and balances. This is what I've been saying from the beginning. Where is the checks and balances? Where is the people from our government that are going to come down and sit in this courtroom and tell me that what we're seeing is a fair trial? That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. In regards to sitting down and seeing this trial versus the last trial in comparison with notes, especially with today's witnesses, there have been several anomalies that were pointed out to me since I missed some of that. Would you be willing to go over with the audience what those, at least a couple of those anomalies are?
Okay, so...
And his inconsistencies.
Well, there's been inconsistencies the entire time. Willis, so for Agent Willis, let's talk about this. They decided to bring in PBS frontline evidence in this trial, and then there was something else. Both of those things didn't come out until after the last trial. So now they're going to bring in PBS frontline evidence, pictures as evidence. They're making their own timeline for these pictures. They're pulling all of these in, accumulative evidence, just so that they can create this timeline where it shows that these people were pointing weapons for a certain amount of time. When they have aerial footage, they can be like, here they got on the bridge, here they stopped. But they don't want to do it that way. They want to misconstrue everything. I also want to bring up the fact that they can bring PBS frontline information into the courtroom, but they're not even going to prosecute them for getting out protected discovery. Right. Let's demand all the discovery gets released. If PBS and the government's narrative are the ones that are able to pick what pieces and release it, we the people demand that the discovery on these cases are released. There is no reason the Las Vegas Review-Journal, who asked for this multiple times, should not get the longbow. I know other news sources have asked for this longbow footage. PBS was given clips that prove the government's narrative or push the government's narrative, and that's what they put out and nothing else. Other things, these other defendants are coming in, they change, they say, oh, well, this is Tan Hat. They identified Tan Hat as Todd Engel in the last trial. The same defendant or the same witness comes up and it identifies Tan Hat as somebody completely different in this trial. But we can't even bring up that there's another trial. They just say, oh, a previous hearing. Now, we can do this, but it's confusing to the jury. We can't be like, well, didn't you identify Tan Hat as someone else in a previous trial, a hearing, and then these FBI agents, these BLM people, they're all trained to skirt around the actual question, not answer it. It's a distraction tactic.
And they're bringing up lots of people in camouflage standing in front of the stage area that aren't even defendants. That they're making them look like scary people. These men haven't even been charged, which I'm thankful they haven't. But they're showing these people as if they're co-conspirators or conspirators in this case when they haven't even been charged. But they're showing all these pictures to the jurors, making it look like there's a whole bunch of people that are militia or oath keepers. And
like a bad name.
These men don't even belong to the Arizona militia. Never have. They don't belong to the oath keepers. So with all that said, they're making them look like they belong to some big conspiracy or oath, militia thing when they don't. Eric Parker wasn't dressed like the oath keepers of the Arizona militia. He came there by himself with a couple of friends from another state even, and didn't even know them other people. So in the Facebook post, they're pulling off Facebook posts just from a couple of days ago. They're looking at our Facebook post as we're speaking and using it up there in the courtroom. They asked about a couple of Facebook posts we had that was up here, and when it was last seen, and he said, well, just yesterday or the day before. Just with a couple of days ago, Agent Willis was pulling Facebook posts off of Facebook and use it as evidence today.
And that's outside the scope of the time limitations provided for this case.
Way
Am I correct?
Out of scope.
Well, and this is how they're getting around it. They're saying it's open source, meaning any person can go on the internet, look up that person's Facebook, and look at that information. This goes to your privacy settings on your Facebook, if you're friends only or public, and all of that. What they're saying is these open sources, they can just go onto anyone's Facebook, pull something off, and use it as evidence in court. First off, there's huge issues with this. Who edits things they put on Facebook? I'm gonna say a lot of people edit and they enhance things on Facebook. So to say that is an accurate representation, and have someone say that is an accurate representation that wasn't there, didn't take the picture, he's just an FBI agent sitting in the room saying, yeah, that's an accurate representation. Oh, I can tell the timeline on that based on the images of the people down in the wash and where they're standing, or based on someone's shadow. They are saying that I can tell what time that picture was taken based on someone's shadow. So what we have here is a whole bunch of smoke and mirrors on the government side trying to prove a case and distract the jury and mislead Americans.
Absolutely.
100%.
Well, it's been a long day down here, guys. We will have more for you tomorrow and throughout the week. If you're down here close by, come and join us. Other than that, we will be giving you an update probably at noon. It's really tight schedule sometimes getting out here and grabbing lunch, but please come down here and join us. If not, we'll be still giving you some updates at our lunch break and probably again tomorrow evening. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Have a good day, and God bless, and keep praying for us.